Listen up, real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and agents. You're in the right place, unlocking the secrets to real estate investing and entrepreneurship. Welcome to the Titanium Vault, hosted by RJ Bates III. Here's RJ.
Hello and welcome to the Titanium Vault. I'm your host, RJ Bates. Today I'm sitting down with Ginzburg. Gene, how are you doing today?
I'm excellent. I'm super excited to be on the show. I love talking about what I do, digital marketing. I'd love to share some details with your audiences today.
Yeah, so for most of the listeners out there, I know y'all are used to me having guests on that are real estate investors and real estate related. But today we're going to talk about digital marketing and the impact that that can have on all of our businesses. It doesn't matter what market you're in, but we are going to relate that to the real estate investing world. So real quick, Gene, why don't you go into what digital marketing is and how that impacts different businesses?
Absolutely. So digital marketing, I guess the definition of that would be any marketing that's done online. So that would be the opposite of, let's say, direct mail marketing, TV, advertising, radio, things like that. So anything where the process, the process of, let's say, connection between the company and the end user starts online. Sometimes it transacts online. So for example, like e-commerce. But sometimes it just starts online and then goes offline, for example, for maybe high-end products where there's a salesperson that's involved and eventually, a deal is closed for, let's say, products that maybe, or services that might be several $1,000s or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So but typically the process begins somewhere online.
So your business, you're in the digital marketing world. What particularly do you do in digital marketing?
Absolutely. So I work with companies, typically small to medium-sized businesses, that have, I say, a couple of challenges. One is they might have been in business for a while, and maybe they've been using marketing strategies that are antiquated. And so I come in and I talk to them about how to use digital marketing to grow their revenue, to bring in more prospects, to bring in more customers. And also then I just consult with them on what it is to actually be doing digital marketing. So it's kind of like part of it is digitizing their current strategies, but also executing on those strategies and using the actual platforms, things like Facebook advertising and Google AdWords and retargeting to find those prospects and convert them into paying customers eventually.
So it's funny you bring that up this early on in the interview, but antiquated forms of marketing. In the real estate investing world, we are just stuck in our ways. So many people are using only direct mail. Cold calling's all the rage nowadays. A lot of people are breaking into that, but I see so many investors leaving so much opportunity for their business because they're not utilizing digital marketing. My company has utilized pay-per-click and Facebook ads, LinkedIn to build our buyers list, all kinds of different forms of digital marketing, and it has impacted us tremendously. So for you being a consultant and a coach, if I were to sit down with you and I said, hey, look, I'm a real estate investor in the Dallas-Fort Worth market, and I've only been doing direct mail, but I want to start with digital marketing or some form of it, what is the first step that you tell your clients to do?
Well, I think first of all, just taking a step back, there seems like there's a lot of opportunity there. And I have worked with types of industries that are not utilizing digital marketing as well or as much. And what I found is that this is a great opportunity for those companies that would then be taking the next step and being the most competitive in their space at this point, because they are using brand new strategies that are much more effective than their current counterparts. So there's first thing, I guess, is just taking the step and being the most competitive you can be right now in the space and using and utilizing these strategies. In terms of what happens when I first engage with a with a client, the first thing we definitely do is create a customer profile or multiple customer profiles. One of the, I'd say the top mistakes that I found when working with businesses is that, especially with digital marketing, they really want to get in there and start running ads and doing all that stuff. And that's great. But the thing is, if you don't know who you're marketing to, then you're going to have a tough time getting an ROI on your advertising spend and all of your marketing efforts. So extremely important to really understand who is your ideal target market. And from then you can create brand messaging, marketing messages. All of that will be incorporated into your advertising, into your email marketing campaigns and whatnot. I mean, it's going to be then spread across everywhere that you're doing business. So the first thing is definitely creating an ideal target profile or profiles. Sometimes there's multiple ones for the client.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you bring that up because in the investing world, if a lot of our marketing is for motivated sellers, like that's what we need. We need the houses, we need those leads to be able to go acquire properties. And a lot of times we shove the same marketing message towards all of our list. And by list, I mean you could send the same message to a burnout house, so a house that has fire damage and they now want to sell the house, compared to you're sending the same marketing message to an unwanted inherited property.
Mm-hmm.
Those are two different clients. They need to be receiving two different marketing messages from the real estate investment firm. And it sounds to me like that would be something that you would help your clients out with really identifying the kind of message that you want to get across to your I guess it's not a customer, but the person that you're trying to market to. Is that correct?
Absolutely, of course, because the message is going to be really, it's going to really make or break your connection with the end user, or whatever the customer, the client in this scenario. So if you're sending someone who has inherited a property, and you're sending them messaging about fire damage, they're going to be like, I don't know, this is not applicable to me. Like, and
Right.
toss it in the trash can if it was direct mail, or like, if you're talking about the Facebook feed advertising, they would just scroll past the feed. So you really have to create the message that's applicable to your end user or the person you're trying to get to do business with. So, and then also segmenting your list or lists into these kinds of I guess portions, right? So you want to make sure that the houses that have fire damage are going to have one type of message, and you're going to have a segmented list of those types of properties, and those individuals and users will get a certain message versus, let's say, an inherited property. So absolutely, it's so critical, because the thing is, the problems and the challenges that each segment will have is going to be different from each other, right? So
Right.
the challenge that I might have with a burnt property is going to be completely different than like an unwanted inherited property, right? So absolutely. And the thing is, in order to make that connection, you have to create a message that resonates with audiences.
Absolutely. And I say this all the time, as entrepreneurs, what we really are is just problem solvers. No matter what business you're in,
Yep.
you're solving someone's problem. And so you, as a digital marketing company or a consultant or a coach, you're helping people that don't really fully understand how to market their business correctly or utilize the digital platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen, and y'all might have listened to what I just said and used that example and been, kind of laughed and been like, that doesn't happen. I literally just came from a room with 75 people in it, and that example was used, and majority of the people in the room raised their hand and said, yep, you know what? I'm using the same marketing piece for both of those lists. And it's just because we get in this cycle of that's my marketing piece. I'm trying to get my brand across, or my message, which is most of the time with investors is something simple like, we buy houses, we close with cash in 7 days or less, you pay no fees. These are all common. But if you can take that and put it in a digital platform and then tailor that message to what their actual need is, that's going to stand out among the masses. And it's really going to
Absolutely.
separate you from your competition. And so you've brought up a couple things, different platforms, and I just want to touch on those to make sure everybody fully understands it. And one of those is retargeting. Explain retargeting and how that can really impact your ROI on marketing.
Absolutely. And retargeting is one of the more powerful strategies in digital marketing that I use with my current clients or previous clients. And I recommend that this strategy very highly because it is very low cost and has amazing results. And so just to take a step back on what exactly retargeting is. So let's say you have a website and you can place these retargeting pieces of code, these pixels on there. So when I come to your website, the magical genie out there knows that I've been to your site, and it will pixel me, or what we call cookie me, and then so it knows that I'm somehow interested in your content because I visited your site. And what you can do is you can then retarget me with ads saying, hey, come back to the site because we have, let's say, an offer, or maybe you want more information or more content. So basically entice me in a way to bring me back to engage with your brand further. And we call this warm traffic. And so the difference between cold traffic and warm traffic is cold traffic are people who have never been to your site, never engaged with your brand, never seen your content, don't know who you are. And then warm traffic are individuals who have already engaged with you, maybe have seen a video, maybe have read a blog post or something. And so it's much easier to convert and engage further with the warm traffic because they already know a little bit about you and seems like they're interested in what you have to say. So retargeting is an amazing strategy. I also use quite a bit of Facebook retargeting. So it's not just websites, but if you engage with, let's say, my Facebook page, my business page, I can retarget you, and maybe you've watched a couple of my videos or something like that about digital marketing. Well, there's methods to create these retargeting pools within Facebook, which also will allow me to create an ad for you to bring you back to, let's say, my site or more content on my social media pages.
Right, and why this is so important is because if you decide that you want to do pay-per-click on Google AdWords, or a Facebook ad, it can draw someone's attention, especially if you're saying, hey, I can solve your problem. You're going into foreclosure, I can buy your house. I can help you avoid foreclosure. And they click on your ad. Maybe they're still in denial about the situation they're in. Maybe they're only 30 days late. But if you do retargeting, when they get further and further behind and your message and your brand is constantly in front of them, that's where you can get that true conversion. And the other aspect of this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm by no means a digital marketing expert, but don't you want to kind of change the message on the retargeting ad from the initial ad because they've already kind of touched base with you. They're familiar with your brand and your message. Don't you want to kind of change it a little bit to where that's what's helping you convert it?
Absolutely. No, that's a very good point. And this is what we call a funnel. And all businesses have some sort of funnel. And the reason why it's called that is because at the top, you have cold traffic, you have a big opening, and over a period of time, you have people going further down into the funnel, and they're getting smaller and smaller in number, but they're getting more concentrated, and they're the ones who are going to be the most interested in what you have to say and engaging with you. So yes, so as these individuals go down further into the funnel, you want to change the messaging because at the top of the funnel, your messaging might be very, broad or generic. But then as they get lower and lower to the bottom of the funnel, with retargeting ads, for example, would be another way to do that. You want to make sure that you're changing the messaging up because at that point, they already have engaged with you previously. So as they are in the middle of the funnel, for example, you want to say, for example, hey, it sounds, maybe you're getting closer to your default or something like that. Right. And so your messaging is going to be different versus, if they're in a different place in their
right.
Yeah.
You brought something up earlier that I think would be a great place if you're in the middle of that funnel. You talked about if they've read your blog, and I think it's so important that we consistently and constantly create content on digital platforms. So be it a blog, it's really whatever you're most comfortable with, right? I mean, if you're a great writer, then create a blog. If you're comfortable behind a microphone, like I am, create a podcast. If you like being in front of the camera, then do YouTube videos. Really, you should do all of it. But, if you're just getting started, pick whatever you're most comfortable with. And at this point in time, if you're in the middle of the funnel, you could actually do an educational piece of some sort and say, write a blog about how to avoid foreclosure, or here's, 4 tips on how to avoid foreclosure. And that's easy for a real estate investor to write that blog. And at that point in time, you can have a retargeting ad to that blog piece, right?
Absolutely. That is the perfect way of doing that. I'm glad you brought up that example because, yeah, it's content is going to be the next thing I was going to talk about after finding your ideal target market is, yeah, the way to stand out in your industry, especially in an industry like this, which doesn't utilize maybe content as much as you
Right.
can or as you should. Yes, creating videos, creating blog posts, articles, case studies, all of those could be used, podcasts or audios, all of that can be used as content to bring people in and to identify a problem that they're having and then to have you be the solution to that problem. So yeah,
Right.
so it's extremely important to be creating content on a regular basis in order to stay competitive.
Yeah, and if you've been a real estate investor for any amount of time and you've done numerous deals, you have walked into a house and said, thank you for responding to my marketing piece of whatever it was. Here's my solution. And they've asked you, is this a scam? I've seen this on TV before. Are you taking my house from me? They've asked all these different kinds of questions. That content that you put out there, that immediately builds rapport with that homeowner, and it allows them to do what nowadays most people do anyways. And if you think about it, before you buy stuff, more often than not, you're going to go do research on whatever company it is you're about to buy a product from. Think about selling your house to someone, and everybody thinks when you have to sell your house, I need to go hire a realtor. That's the normal thought. The normal thought is not, hey, I'm going to go call a real estate investor and not have a realtor in the transaction. And so that content is so vitally important because it's essentially building your resume for your customers. And
Absolutely,
I
and
can't.
it answers a lot of questions for the end user, the person who's selling their house. Like
Right.
I wouldn't know any of this information, right, if I were to sell my house now. So, providing all of that content in videos and blog posts and answering all those questions, basically kind of like a frequently asked questions, but putting that maybe expanding on every question that you have and creating like a 5-minute video about it,
Right.
because I'm sure that you've received, you and everybody who's listening on this episode, I'm sure you've received all these questions and you
Mhm.
probably have answered them 1,000 times by now. So
But think
so
about how differently you would feel if you watched a video and you saw me sitting down to someone that was in your same situation and they're giving my company a testimonial saying, hey, I was in, I inherited an unwanted property. I didn't even know I owned it. And we were delinquent on the taxes for 3 years because I didn't know my relative left me this house. Happens all the time. I know it sounds crazy, but it happens all the time. And RJ called me out of the blue and said he could solve my problem, and he did. And now I'm getting money from a house I didn't even know I owned. And you watch that video and you're like, I'm in the same situation, and I clicked on this because he's saying he can help me in this situation. That's kind of a scenario that those leads come to us all the time, and we're dealing with them and we're trying to solve them. But this is how digital marketing can really help an industry that is just we're stuck in our ways. I'm not saying direct mail is dead, but there's other ways to do it. And so, we've talked about retargeting, we've talked about content. really, let's talk about Facebook and the impact that it can have, because you and I met on Facebook. I say that all the time. Most of my guests I do meet on Facebook. I love Facebook. I think it's one of the most powerful tools out there in business nowadays. What's some of the ways that you utilize Facebook for your business and you suggest other people that they should use it for?
Well, for my own business, and actually for my clients' businesses as well, I utilize that as a content strategy tool. So I have probably at this point several hundred videos that I have created over the last couple of years. So I've been putting all of those videos on Facebook, not every day, not all a couple hundred every day, but on a regular basis, I create videos and I put them up on Facebook and also on my other social media platforms. But I get comments and likes, and people can see my area of expertise through those videos. I also put up any previous podcasts, for example, I've done. So I definitely heavily use Facebook as a social media platform where I can interact with other users and show my area of expertise in digital marketing.
So let's talk about your expertise.
Uh-huh.
I know we kind of just dove into the meats and bones of digital marketing there, but I was so excited to talk about how behind the times real estate investing is. So I know you've been on Forbes, the Huffington Post. You've written a book. So let's talk about your book.
Sure.
What is it about, and how can people get it?
Absolutely. So the book is called Win New Customers: How to Attract, Connect, and Convert More Prospects into Customers in 60 Days Using Digital Marketing Strategies. The book was a #1 bestseller on Amazon, and the book can be utilized for pretty much I would say any business out there. Now, not every single strategy in the book will be utilized for every single business, but there are concepts in there that can be utilized for every single business. I really talk about communication and having a communication strategy, a nurturing strategy for your prospects. So all of that is extremely applicable to any business that you have, whether it's a real estate investment firm or an e-commerce business or a software as a service product. So it covers a lot of ground. The book covers a lot of ground when it comes to digital marketing. And I talk about things like Facebook advertising, which we covered. I talk about retargeting, which we also covered. But I also talk about things like creating a product offering strategy. So, and this might not be as applicable, let's say, to real estate investment firms, but a lot of times you see, businesses really want to get their core product out there. For example, let's say it's like a $2,000 consulting package or something like that. Well, what we found is that leading up to that point, like having steps that lead up to that point is really valuable, which is basically the nurture period when you're nurturing a prospect to become a paying customer. I also talk about landing pages, which are very important, especially if you're doing advertising on Google AdWords, on Facebook, or any other platform. So having strong landing pages that have calls to action. So yeah, the book was just such a great experience for me, because basically I took the knowledge that I have gotten over the period of time that I've been working with my clients, with my private clients, and I downloaded it all into a book, because I thought, there's no point in me keeping it all to myself. This is not valuable information when it's inside my head. It would be much more valuable if I can put it out there in a book, so that other people can actually repurpose that for their own business.
It's a great feeling to have. I'm actually kind of approaching that when it comes to real estate. It's such a magical moment of being an entrepreneur, and I talked about this. I just mentioned I came from a real estate investing mastermind, and I actually challenged everybody in the room when I was speaking to find something that they're comfortable with content wise and go create it. If it's a podcast, blog, writing a book, create a YouTube channel and just create videos, or whatever it is. It's so powerful, because when I look back at my journey on how I started and how I got here, it's because other people shared their wisdom and their knowledge and their experiences. And it's such a reciprocal thing. And it's almost like we owe it to the people that are going to follow behind us. And so thank you for writing that book. And I very much look forward to reading it. Um, how did you how did you get your start? How did you decide that you were going to create this business and this was going to be your path?
Well, I've had my business for the last 5 years, and prior to that, I was in digital marketing for 6 years, so total of 11 years, which kind of sounds crazy right now. It seems like digital marketing has only been around for 11 years itself, such a new industry, but it's been around for a little bit longer than that. But yeah, I just started off 11 years ago in a junior position and learned a lot over the years and kind of came up the ranks, if you will, and decided that I wanted to start something of my own. I felt that I could work much better working directly with clients versus working with an employer. So I felt that I've always wanted to start something on my own. It was kind of a passion that I've had in the back of my mind for a long time. So I decided, hey, this is the time. So I quit my job and became a consultant. And over a period of the last 5 years, I still learned a lot, still learning. I mean, being an entrepreneur, you never stop learning. So it's been just a rewarding experience working directly with clients.
Absolutely. I think being an entrepreneur is one of the most rewarding things that anybody can do. And I challenge family members and friends all the time. I'm like, it doesn't have to be this overwhelming, massive, multi-million dollar empire, but just creating something for yourself and for your family is so rewarding. And if you have any kind of inclination that you want to do that, I always challenge people to do it. So since you have created this business and you've written a book, and like I said, you've been featured and published on all the major ways that you can be published, what's your why?
Why did I want to get into digital marketing?
Well, what's your why behind being an entrepreneur and creating this and getting out there and writing a book? I mean, what's your driving force?
Well, like I said, a lot of it, especially the book, was sharing my knowledge with people because I felt that I had all this knowledge that I've amassed, and uh, I've made some mistakes in the past, and I've learned from those mistakes, and I feel that I could share this information with people who might not be familiar with digital marketing, or even if they're familiar, might have taken a much longer journey. But having learned from all my mistakes, I could kind of boil down all of the results that I've had, all of the best practices that I can share, and put it into a book. So it just makes much more sense instead of making all the mistakes that I've made and going through like a long process. You can just basically take the strategies.
Read your book.
Exactly. Yeah, take the strategies and not make those same mistakes that I did. So that's really the why.
You're like, just read my book and avoid all my mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is what you need to do right here.
Absolutely, because it can be daunting to do digital marketing if you're not familiar with it, especially if you have a business that's not related to digital marketing, like let's say real estate investing,
Right.
and you're working on your business and you're an expert in your field, and you also have to become an expert in digital marketing. It just becomes kind of like a second full-time job almost. So boiling it down for people, let's say like these audiences on this episode, I think would be so beneficial, right? Because then you don't have to you can take the guesswork out of it.
Well, yeah, and why is someone in Gene's position important? Let me share my first Facebook ad with you guys.
Okay.
I got denied, and I no joke, it had to have been like 35 times. And I didn't understand why. It's just a post. I'm just trying to put a post, and I'm trying to run a little $20 ad. I don't understand why Facebook will not accept this. It would say, it's approved, and then 10 minutes later, it's not approved, too many words, or this or that, and I just couldn't figure it out, and I just wasted time. And there's nothing more important to an entrepreneur than their time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to be working on our business, and I'm sitting here and I'm in my business and I'm trying to figure out how to run this simple little ad, and I was just trying to sell a property, and I didn't know what I was doing. But if I was working with someone like you, that wouldn't have been a problem whatsoever, and it could have been streamlined. And so, unfortunately for myself, I wasted a bunch of time, but I did learn how to do some of this stuff over the long run. But anyways, I just felt like that was appropriate to share that story. I don't think I've ever actually told anybody. I was too embarrassed to tell people that I couldn't figure out how to run a Facebook ad for the longest time. But anyways, so I always like to ask our guests, and I apologize. I didn't tell you before the interview, so if I completely stumped you, I apologize. But I always like to ask people, where do you want to be 5 years from now in your business?
That's actually an easy question. You know why? Because in the beginning of this year, I did my strategic planning for this year, for the next 3 years and 10 years. I didn't include 5 years, but and just as a side note, I read this book called Traction. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Oh yeah, I love Traction.
Okay, great. So you're familiar, and perhaps
Yes.
your audiences are familiar with this book. And if you're not familiar, then I would highly recommend reading this book, Traction by Gino Wickman. It's an amazing book for any entrepreneur, for any business, no matter if you're a solopreneur to a company of, 500 employees. It doesn't matter. All of the strategies in that book can be utilized for any business. But anyway, I did my strategic planning for 2018, and where do I want to be in 5 years? So in 5 years, I want to be a digital marketing guru, a much bigger digital marketing guru. I already am to some capacity, but much more knowledgeable where people and businesses come to me for advice on digital marketing, and because I feel like I just have so much knowledge that I want to help, and again, not have people like you or other businesses make the mistakes in creating Facebook ads. I can just walk them through it and save you a bunch of time.
Right. And the crazy thing for you, and I feel this way as well as real estate investors, we never know what's going to happen with the market, right?
Yeah.
Is it going up? Is it going down? For you, who knows what's going to be in digital marketing in 5 years or even 10 years from now? Your job is constantly going to be changing. That's got to be kind of exciting for you, right?
I think I know what's going to happen. In my opinion, I think it's going to be much more automated in the next 5 years. So all of these things that we're talking about now, like creating Facebook ads, are going to be much more automated and much more streamlined, versus we don't have to think of how do I create this ad. There's going to be platforms and third-party platforms that will just allow us to create these ads much more quickly and efficiently. Actually, I don't know if Facebook will be around in 5 years, or it will be as pertinent as it is now. I actually think that in the next few years there's going to be a new platform that's going to come out where everybody's attention will be on that. But the idea is that it's going to be just in general, whether it's Facebook or not, but the idea is digital marketing will just be much more automated in the next few years. So all you'll need is someone like me who's a consultant and knows all the ins and outs. And you might need, just one person who is just pushing some buttons and setting up campaigns. Maybe you don't even need to have set up, maybe it's going to be all automated. So you might just need one person to kind of man the whole thing. That's where I think the change will be in the next few years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Gene, thank you so much for sitting down with us today. For the takeaway today for me, and I hope everybody out there listening, if you're in a business, and it doesn't have to be in real estate. I know we talk about real estate all the time, but that's because that's what I do. I know we have listeners that do other stuff, and even people that are in real estate, they have their other businesses as well that they're involved in. But if you're not utilizing digital marketing, definitely reach out to Gene and try to take your business to the next level. Because if you're not utilizing digital marketing, you're definitely missing out on business, and you're just hindering your business overall. So, Gene, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thank you. And I'd love to give a little a giveaway to your audiences.
Yes, please.
So we talked about the book earlier on the episode, and I'd love to give the book away for free in PDF format. I think you guys can use a lot of the information that's in the book for your business. We'll put that in the show notes, but if you go to GeneGinzburg.com/the titanium vault, so that's GeneGinzburg.com/the titanium vault, you can get the book in instant download in PDF format and start reading it right away. So I hope you guys take advantage of that. And if you want to find me, I'm on Facebook, Gene Ginzburg, Digital Marketing Expert. I'm on LinkedIn, Gene Ginzburg, Digital Marketing Expert. So happy to connect with you on social media.
Awesome. Thank you, Gene. And that's an amazing opportunity. So everybody, please go download the book. Thank you for making that contribution to the listeners, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks so much.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Titanium Vault with your host, RJ Bates III. For more info and to stay up to date, visit www.podcast.thetitaniumvault.com and on facebook.com/The Titanium Vault. If you enjoyed the episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time on the Titanium Vault.